Welcome to the Wellness Witches Whimsy Podcast, your go-to sanctuary where magic meets mindfulness and holistic health gets real.
Join us, your hosts, Shade and Vanessa, as we dive deep into the realms of real life, trauma healing, whole foods, and the profound connection between mind, body, and soul.
So excited to be here with you.
Yes, it is super exciting. Okay, we're gonna make sure that we're not awkward for you guys. Because like both of us would
stare into your soul.
Yeah, seriously. So this is our very first episode.
Yes.
We have both been toying with the notion and idea of doing a podcast for quite some time. So we're pretty freaking excited.
Third time's the charm. This is our third attempt.
Yeah, today, and I feel good about today.
Me
like
too.
The universe is like aligning pretty rapidly for us lately, and I feel like today was the day that was meant to be.
Yeah. And in our space. Like this is a magical space.
It is.
This building is so magical. There's just so much history, and
for sure.
I just see all the growth happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think this was the perfect setting for today's podcast. Yes. So what we're going to do today is we are going to introduce you to our stories, why we got into the holistic healing space, and we'll just kind of dive right into it. So Shade, you want to go first?
Yeah. Well, you think of like, what was that one moment, but it's like all these little things now that I can see. Years ago, I wouldn't have had a clue, but there was those stepping stones. My grandma was a bad diabetic, and when I was a teenager, I had to watch her gaining weight and then leg ulcers and changing her dressings. Nobody could handle all the drainage, and I liked it. Yeah, I gravitated towards it, and I was like, I'll change the dressings. And so then when I was in high school, I was offered to do CNA courses. So I jumped on that right away. And well, I started washing dishes in the nursing home. I should have known then that was my first job.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
That's pretty crazy. And I was a CNA when I was in high school as well.
Yeah.
And then our friend Allie was also a CNA in high school as well. And here we are. What, 16, 17 years later?
Yeah.
However later it is. And we're all three in the same space again.
It's very wild.
I know.
Very wild.
Oh.
And so then the CNA stuff's going great. I did a lot of in-home care, nursing home, assisted living, and I just loved helping the elderly. And it was great. And then after 8 or 9 years of that, it was like, okay, now what's the next step? So I looked into medical assistant.
Okay.
And I thought that was great. Help the doctor, get more of that patient contact that I really liked. I seem to always have people say like, oh, your medical assistant was great. So it was always so nice to hear that. So I was working at Meritor in Madison. Best job I thought I had.
Right.
And it was the first time I was ever fired.
Oh, I can't even imagine that.
I didn't even know how to react. It was a big shock. I asked the people to leave the room. I'm like, which I'm so glad I was able to say that. Like, can we just have a moment? Then they came back, but it was one of those moments that got me back to Reedsburg. Yeah. And another stepping stone. If I wouldn't have done that, I'd still probably be in the medical field that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I did pediatrics one day, and there's just were these unsettling things that I didn't know what it was till now that I can look back at like, oh, my body was telling me like this was not something I really wanted to do. Right.
Like you weren't meant to be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So then I'm here and I'm helping my grandma back to helping her. And I loved that. And then I met my boyfriend, and then we had our son. So then I was a stay-at-home mom, which was amazing. I was so blessed that I was able to do that, and I really enjoyed it. And then I was ready for something and I found Tabata. Started finally doing a little something, and then CrossFit, and that was like my saving. Started to find people where I could connect. I felt like I had no girlfriend, no friends here. Like I had
Right.
my mom and my son, which were great, but it was like I needed another connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much I needed it till I was there and was just
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, okay, be quiet. Don't be that weirdo that's talking to everybody. Like,
Right, like,
just be my friend. Yeah, just be my friend, please, please.
Seriously.
To be my friend. Yeah, it's like, okay, just be quiet. Cool.
Yeah. Collective.
Yeah. And the girl who owned the gym, she started on her journey through holistic health
Mhm.
and heard about IIN, the school, and I could see these changes with her. And she's like, I think this would be great for you. And I looked into it and I started it, and it was this chapter that was like, it was calling to me
Yeah.
so much. Yeah.
Yeah. And how amazing.
Yes. So then finished school. I started in the year program and I was
Mhm.
like, this is too slow. I want more, and changed to the 6-month plan.
Mhm.
And it was so great.
So yours wasn't self-paced. It was like given in a structured way, the
Yes.
school.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Interesting.
Well, you had like so many videos in a week or something to complete.
Okay.
So it was kind of like some people had the certain days. I was luckily that I was on every day and like
Yep.
was able to like it just sucked me in so
Oh, yeah,
much. Yeah.
absolutely.
And it was so diverse. Like school, I struggled my whole life.
Hmm.
And it was just that right structure. It
Yeah.
was just like a different variety of people because you don't connect with everybody, and
Right.
that's okay.
Right. Everyone has different learning styles
Yes.
and people have different teaching
Drink styles.
styles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was, yeah, maybe a few videos that I didn't connect with, but I got the information out of it
Right.
and learned something. But it was nice to have that variety.
Hmm.
And there wasn't pressure of like taking this huge test
Hmm.
to pass to like do something you're passionate about. I feel like I get so much anxiety from
Absolutely.
that. And then it's like, now what? Like as a medical
Right.
assistant, I took the test for that. Your metal detector, cameras on you. You're
Yeah.
paying over
Right.
hundreds of dollars for a test.
Hmm.
And then I didn't pass it. And now I'm like, what do I do? Like now I feel like am you like, oh, you fail because you went through, it's
Right.
like this finding that balance. So that school was great where it was like learn your stuff. We have calls together, like group
Yeah.
things, and like we will help you get a good foundation
Right.
and on a good path. If and the school was a lot of either like people were going to heal themselves
Yeah.
or like to start a career. And it
Right.
was really beautiful to like hear when we would get in these group calls of like who's here, like, and it changed everybody. Everybody
Hmm.
had a story of somehow that it was impacting their life in a
Right.
positive way.
Right.
Like, oh, I learned this about my health. Now I'm able to help other people.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
many. To backtrack to kind of like some health things that I had was with my grandma being diabetic.
Hmm.
I luckily had a doctor that since I was 6, we had been going to her. So I, by, clinical, I wouldn't be tested.
Right.
Like my parents were fine. I'm an only
Hmm.
child, only grandchild. Like, so I was asked my doctor, like, my grandma has it, my grandpa had it.
Hmm.
Is there something we can test for? And so I had the glucose tolerance test, and I ended up like vomiting profusely,
Oh.
admitted to the ER. But there was never any answers. There was
Right.
never like, oh, well, you look fine. And I'm
Hmm.
like, okay.
Hmm.
I didn't know anything. I'm probably like my early 20s.
Right.
And then they're just like, oh, well, you're not pregnant? No. Okay. And then I just go home and then
And then that was
then
it.
it's it. Then it's the
Yeah.
end of it. And then fast forward, then my doctor, luckily, she was always kind of on top. Like we would check every once in a while. And I would tell her, like, I can feel like if I ate a candy bar, like I could
Hmm.
feel the sugar in my body. Or
Right.
like feel like, and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna listen and say, like, I probably shouldn't have this.
Right. Right.
My body's telling me this.
Hmm.
And then I just when I was pregnant, gestational diabetes, which I kind of figured. And
Hmm.
when this lady said it to me, the diabetic educator, she said, "You are the first one that has not cried in my office." And I'm like, how sad.
Yeah. Well, because
I
it's
are,
such a scary notion
yeah.
if you are unfamiliar with the mechanics of your body and what you can do to
And I just,
help it.
how sad for all those people
Hmm.
that it doesn't have to be a sad thing.
Right, right.
There can be things. And now I'm like, I just diet and exercise. That's all I've ever the
Hmm.
two things that I've done that no doctor or any other setting has told me to do.
Right. And when we say diet, we don't mean the fad
Oh, yes.
diets.
No,
We mean our
yes.
lifestyle
Yeah.
choices, consuming whole foods, eliminating ultra processed foods, right? Like that's what we're
Yes.
talking about.
I'm
Yeah.
blessed. I know that's a word that I have to change in my vocabulary, as I was blessed that I never really went down that road
Right.
my whole life. I never like keto or just like counting carbs
Hmm.
or macros. None of that. I never stepped inside that realm.
Yeah. And it's
I'm
a
more,
debilitating realm
yes,
to be
it
in.
is. I'm more the realm of I'm an emotional eater. So
Yeah.
I'll just shove the food in my mouth. I'm cutting it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I had the gestational diabetes, they gave me this booklet, and that was actually so helpful, where it was
Hmm.
just this little booklet of here's some numbers that if you consume something, your number is going to be a little higher. So try to stay in these ranges. And it was
Hmm.
so helpful, and it was simple, easy.
Hmm.
I ate my half a banana
Hmm.
and like, oh, a burger compared to a chicken sandwich. I remember growing up hearing chicken sandwich is going to be, a cleaner choice for
Yep.
you, but not always
Is that the
right.
case?
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, everybody's
Everybody.
body tolerates things differently. Our metabolisms process foods differently. But again, like that's not talked
Like
about.
a,
Western
yeah.
medicine
Listen,
says what's generally healthy is ABC, and that's what you should stick to. And
yeah,
they don't think about, okay, but what does the individual body
buddy.
need?
That's the blessing I think of our schools that we
Hmm.
both went to. It's like
Oh, yeah.
the individual, like everybody is we're all different, but we're all the same. Like
Right.
we're all different. Our bodies are different. We need different things. We're
Hmm.
having different reactions, but we should all be together as one and love each other as one and
Right. Right. It's that
know
collective
that the
healing.
healing. Yes.
For sure.
So that's, I guess, my story,
Yeah.
kind of randomly all over
All
the
over the
place.
place, but
Yeah, that's
very
me.
good.
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place, but
Like all of these little moments though, like that's what makes up like the whole of your life's journey up into this point, right?
yeah.
Like there were so many little things and it all came together and you're like, "Oh yeah, it's reflecting back
Right.
on it."
Yeah, and we can't compare. So like when you
Hmm.
start telling your story, I know your story, so I can't be like, "Oh, well, Vanessa's story was more
One way,
yeah,
yeah.
more one way than the other." Like, no, we both have a journey
Hmm.
and we're still on this journey.
Yes. And we'll continue to be on
Got it.
one.
Yeah, it's not a destination. I love
Yeah.
that, like stuck with me. It's not a destination of like, oh, if I do X, Y, and Z, everything's gonna be
Okay. And
okay.
I'm going to be completely
We,
whole and
yeah,
healed and all of the things. That's not the case.
yeah,
And like I always tell like my clients, I will always continue to educate myself, to evolve, to grow, to heal, because what purpose am I serving for you guys if that's not the case? If
it's
I'm asking you to continue to grow, and if I'm asking you to continue to be on this beautiful path and
yes,
journey and not think that there is a destination point, then, like, what am I doing? Like, I mean, we live in 2024. There's things that happen to us all of the time, whether it's like toxicity from the air that we breathe or our electronic devices or the foods that we consume and, social media and the pressures of 2024 and that in life. And like us as women, like we are inundated with so many different things. So like you can be the best version of yourself today, but that doesn't mean that you're the best version of yourself for tomorrow.
no,
And so like yeah, like making sure that we know that we're forever growing. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, for sure. And everybody's story is different because like, like we talk about comparison and I talk about that all of the time because I do group coaching. And so women are together in a group and they're hearing each other's stories. And I always say, like, like that old adage, comparison is the thief of joy. We hear that all of the time, right? But do we like intricately understand what that means? We like on a very basic level, it's because we're all uniquely beautifully designed creatures and we're never going to be parallel to someone perfectly, right? Like there's always going to be a little bit of ups, there's always going to be a little bit of downs. But it doesn't negate your story. What is traumatic for you and hurtful for you can just be an everyday thing for someone else. Or they could be like, "Oh, that would never hurt my feelings. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that."
Yeah.
But that doesn't negate that this person is experiencing those emotions. So, yeah, I don't know why I tangented.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's easy to get on to the tangents of things. And when you said about, we're always growing, I love that, like you said, we have to practice what we preach.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll have a discussion with a client, had one the other day, something I said, and I'm like, oh, this is great because now this is something that I have to go and I was doing it, but I haven't done it for a week. But now I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I just talked to my client about it. Like, this is a good reminder. Yes, we all get in the busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like our pod. It's been third time's the charm.
Yes, yeah. And it was like 2 months ago that we like talked about doing a podcast, and here we are.
Yeah. 2 months later. And I'm the person that just wants to tell everybody. Yeah. I'm like, come look. Okay. Okay. We'll be ready.
Yeah, and it's gonna be so amazing.
It is.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So for my story, I'm gonna give like the very like rapidly condensed version of it. I have I had been sick my entire life. So from the time that I was a year and a half years old, I was diagnosed with severe asthma. And at the time, my family was living in South America, and it was a little country called Uruguay, and it's a very third world country. So thankfully, we did have a great medical doctor that was there, but everything was very like, I don't necessarily know that I don't even know the word to use, primitive, but that's not a really good word. It just wasn't as advanced as what it would have been had we been in the United States. And I had been in and out of the hospital multiple times as an infant because I couldn't breathe. And one of the natural remedies for severe asthma is, oh, just give them coffee because caffeine will open up the air passageways. And what happens with asthma is they start restricting. And so I was like 2 years old drinking coffee. I was 2 years old drinking Coke. And by the time my family moved out of South America and to the States, we were living in Georgia. And y'all, Coca-Cola is a real thing down there.
Yeah.
And you just give it to your kids like it's water. And I grew up drinking Coke all the time.
That is freaking wild. That blows my mind.
I know. I was just thinking about that the other day. Like, there's still even to this day.
I don't know why my eyes are tearing up.
It's crazy to imagine. Could you imagine like giving your 2-year-old soda? Or like give like every day. Like we would go to the grocery store, and I mean like we would buy 12 to 15 liters or bottles of Coke. It was 2 liters, right? Yeah. So 2-liter bottles. That many.
Wow.
Every time we went to the grocery store, we would have our Coke lined up
oh my God.
in our house. And like that's just what it was. So I don't remember going a single day without soda.
Yeah.
And I would go days without drinking water. It was just, I was literally getting my hydration from soda and from coffee. And as I continued to grow, I continued to have really weird, like anomalies with my health. Like I would have sicknesses and viruses that like a child shouldn't have. And I ended up with like a significant case of facial cyanitis where I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning screaming. My entire right side swollen, my eyes swollen shut. We had gotten to the emergency room. One doctor said I had melanoma, and that was insanity. And I was 16 at the time. No, not 16. I was like 14, 15 at the time. And I was sitting in the emergency room with my father who didn't speak good English. And I was just in an insurmountable amount of pain. And the doctors were like, we really don't know what's wrong with you. You might have melanoma. You might have this. You might have that. Have some Vicodin. That was my first experience with Vicodin. And be on your way. And then, we went back. We went to the ear, nose, throat specialist. Turns out it was facial sinusitis. I went through a course of medications. Um, but I continued to like get more sick. And then like fast forward to when I decided to become a CNA. Our friend Allie, we actually worked at the same nursing home together. And yeah, I was a vastly different person. She'll say like, "Oh, you guys, Vanessa was a bitch," and like no one, everyone's like, "What? No way!" But like genuinely, I was not a good human. But I genuinely believed that being a nurse was my calling. I had always wanted to help people. The medical field was super interesting to me. I felt like I had known then that I was called to help heal.
Yes.
And then I continued to get sick. And every single time a resident would get sick, I would get sick. And every single time there was a MRSA outbreak or there was like a really significant virus that went on, I would end up having the virus. And they wouldn't even let me go into the rooms with MRSA because they were like, dude, you get everything. And finally, my doctor sat me down and she's like, you can't be a nurse. You have to stop being a CNA. Like your immune system can't tolerate it. I tried immunotherapy shots. I ended up going into work and passing out and waking up in the emergency room after being transported by the ambulance because after the standard 30-minute waiting time, I left and I was fine until it wasn't, and my body had like a significant reaction. So then those didn't work. So like I went on through a little bit of my adult life, got pregnant and had the worst pregnancy in the history of pregnancies. And we won't get into that. But then I continued to get sicker. And then all of the sudden I was in pain all of the time. And I genuinely did feel crazy. I will say that. And we couldn't figure out why I was in pain, but I was in significant pain. I went through every SSRI, every anti-anxiety, everything that could potentially be called as a mental health medication was put into my body, trying to figure out why I was in pain. They initially believed it was in my head. Then they tested me for fibromyalgia, finally, found out that yep, indeed did have fibromyalgia. And testing is a really loose term. To this day, they can't genuinely test you for fibromyalgia. You have like pain points that they will put, like they will go through like the 19, 20 different pain points that you have on your body. You'll end up with an X amount of it, and they'll say, sure, you have fibromyalgia. They'll take you to a rheumatoid specialist. The rheumatoid specialist will say, yep, you have pretty classic symptoms of fibromyalgia. There's no arthritis in your body. You're vitamin D deficient. While we live in Wisconsin, you guys, everybody's vitamin D deficient in Wisconsin. So then it was, have some more Vicodin. And it was years and years of me being on Vicodin until like the big narcotic incident happened, the big push to not have narcotics, and then all of a sudden I was off. And in that time frame, I continued to have severe asthma. In that time frame, I got diagnosed with a heart condition, and it was really crazy because my entire life I had kept passing out, and they believed that it was a symptom of my asthma, and turned out it was not a symptom of my asthma. My heart was not doing what it was supposed to do. So I would faint. And then because I fainted, it would cause an asthma attack. Yeah.
So you're just,
It was
it trickles down.
It really does. And I was very like fortunate that there was an ER doctor on staff the day that I had passed out and almost died. So like my son found me at the bottom of the stairs. My husband was at work. My daughter was like a year old, and we were on our way to the hospital, and I like just vividly remember like losing sensation in my entire body. I couldn't see anymore. I couldn't hear anymore. And I was like, okay. But I literally was like, finally, like I'm
Like
done.
done. Yeah.
I'm okay. And I think I was genuinely fully okay
Okay.
with passing because I was just so done. I was so done trauma wise. I was so done, like health wise. I was this terrible person by, like we fast forwarded through my entire life pretty much at this point. I was 29 years old, almost 200 pounds. I'm only 4'9", so that is significant weight for a 4'9" being. And I hated myself. I hated my life. I hated my husband. I was a terrible mother, and I was ready. I was ready to go. Thankfully, it didn't
Yeah.
happen. And thankfully, I have the most amazing husband ever, and he used to have to carry me up the stairs every single night. So there were times where that was our only point of contact, was him picking me up the stairs and putting me in the bed. And he finally was like, dude, like, I'm seriously going to be a widower. I'm going to
Yeah.
be 35 years old, and I'm going to be by myself with our two kids. And I was shocked to hear like him just
Just
very
say
plainly
and say
say,
it.
like, you're
Yeah.
seriously gonna die.
Yeah.
And this was just like a couple, like maybe a few weeks after I had almost died. But
Yeah.
like our memories as humans are so short-lived
Yeah.
because like you don't think about that. And that night I had stayed awake all night. And I was like, man. And I was like, do I want to be here anymore?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing at this point? And I realized that like I thought I was supposed to break those curses. I was supposed to break the generational curses. I was supposed to be better than what my parents were.
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to be better than what their parents were before them. And I'm going to leave my husband alone with our two kids. Like what would their lives look like?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, yeah, like let's do it. Like let me figure it out. So I signed up for a Bluff Motor 5 mile obstacle course. It was freaking insane. It sucked. I threw up, cried. I was the very last one to cross the finish line. It took me 2.5 hours to finish it. I collapsed and I was like, there has to be a better way.
Yeah.
But that was like the only thing I knew.
Yeah.
And I started dieting and I found keto and I went down this whole path. But through that whole process, what I realized was that there had to be something different. There had to be
Yeah.
something more. And then all of a sudden, my daughter was super sick and she had severe asthma and she wasn't growing and her hair wasn't growing. And here we were again, like it was deja vu. The doctors didn't know what was going on with her.
Yeah.
They had at one point said that she was going to be a proportional dwarf. And I was
Yeah.
like, what? I hadn't even heard
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
term.
Yeah.
And so we were taking her to endocrinologists. We were taking her to the UW specialist. I mean, we were doing all of the things. She was on antibiotics for more than half of her life. I mean, holy man, like it was literally a repeat of me. And we found a functional medicine doctor, and that was what saved my daughter's life. But I think that that was like the stepping stone for continuing to save my life.
Yeah.
Because like here I am. We'll fast forward again. My daughter doesn't have severe asthma. She actually had a bacteria in her stomach that was attacking her respiratory system. And of course, because she was on a litany of antibiotics.
Mhm.
And we put her on a pretty massive protocol. We like detoxed her little body. She's 4 years old, and we have her taking all of these herbal supplements. We were finally able to get her off of all of her medication. I mean, she was on 3 different steroids just to breathe. She was taking so much medication. And we put her on that protocol. Like we took her off gluten, we took her off of anything that was processed.
Yeah.
She genuinely only ate whole foods. She just kept getting all of the good healing properties in her body. And she's doesn't have asthma. She's 100% medication free. She runs 5Ks with me. She's this beautiful grown girl. And then I was like, dang, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I didn't have fibromyalgia anymore. And I didn't have severe asthma anymore. And I no longer need medication for my heart. And I'm to a point now where I'm supposed to get checkups once a year. And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't for my heart, but like I am pretty in tune with my body.
Right. Yeah.
But a couple years ago, I had to have some surgery, and I went to the cardiologist, and he was genuinely shocked because he said, "You're going to do it. You're not going to need a pacemaker." And that's what they had said, that I would need a pacemaker by the time I was 45. So that's 10 years from now. And they ran the testing, they did everything, and he's like, your heart is doing really well. Like I've lost quite a bit of function of like the electrical components in my heart. Like there's like a percentage and I'm at 65%, but I'm steady.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
good.
Not dropping. It's yeah,
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah, so I'm maintaining and I haven't needed medication for my heart in, I'll say it's been almost 3 years now. The last time I took medication for my heart was during my marathon that my cardiologist told me not to do. And I did it and it was
Yeah.
great. I definitely needed the medication after my marathon.
Yeah.
But now here I am. I've done several more since
Yes.
then with medication free and I haven't done it. But it's all because of holistic healing.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh my gosh, the thing needs stuff. So
Oh, yes.
that's my story. Um,
Very beautiful story. Like heart heart-wrenching, but beautiful because
yeah,
look at, like you said, to like be living it through your daughter too. Like you said, deja vu. Like this
I
is
mean, so
like, how is this happening again? And
again,
then like, but we're gonna get answers, and they're gonna
yeah,
be the answers that are
that could have saved
to me.
me from a
Yes.
lifetime of agony. And I mean,
And then it's just like you said, breaking the generational. It's just that thing of, oh, well, the parents did it. That's what they did before. It's just passed on, so on and so forth.
well, we live in America and Western medicine, and this will probably be a good time for us to disclose.
Yeah.
We are in full support of Western
Yeah.
medicine. There is a
Yeah.
time and place for doctors. There is a time and place for medication. And by no means are we telling you to get off your medication. Don't get off of your
Yeah.
medication, right? Um, we, but Western medicine isn't the end all be all. But we live in the United States. Western medicine is the only answer for the majority of people. Our parents didn't know that there was a whole different world
No.
out there. Our parents did what they could with what they had, with what they knew.
Mm-hmm.
But we have technology on our side. We have an abundance of resources right at our fingertips. So we were able to do that. Our
Yes.
parents just didn't have that. So, but I'm very thankful that
But
like
now
we
they
found
do.
it.
Like, look at how
Yeah.
much my mom does
Yep.
of we all, it doesn't matter the age, we all
Absolutely.
can start healing and
Mhm.
doing better for ourselves.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, my mom's 56 now, and she joined as a client of mine a year ago. Never ran a day in her life, and she's running 4 miles right now.
That's awesome.
And she lost, I think she's almost at 50 pounds of weight loss. And she's a totally different person, and she's
Yes.
a more confident person.
Yeah.
And like she is doing like the inner work and the healing, and like it truly is never too late to get started. I mean,
No.
we're here on the
Yes.
earth. We're living every day. We may as well do it happily and as educated as possible and being that light that shines for everyone.
Yes.
Like there's no one that meets you who is like, oh, I don't know about that Shade girl. Everyone's like, oh, she's so happy.
Yeah.
She's like this beautiful energy and light. And like, yeah,
Yes.
that's what we want.
Yeah. That's with you too. Everybody,
Yeah.
I'm like, if you want the detail, like if you want an explanation of why these things, like there's, yeah, like just like the learning, everybody
Oh,
needs
yeah.
that different thing of information. I'm like, I can hear it here in my head, just like that song.
Yeah.
But then like to say it to you sometimes, I'm like, just I don't even know right now. Just I can tell you it's good for you.
Right. And trust
Just
me, please.
trust me, please. And
Yeah.
Vanessa, you're like, okay, I can give you the rundown here. I think I meet people with that like that comfort.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah, like we're trying to hold safe space
Mhm.
for people, both ways.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's just like the beauty and everything. And I totally believe that the universe just like was like, here we go.
Yes, it was.
Let all of you guys be together in this beautiful space and keep healing all of the people who need to be healed.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
building that we're in
Mhm.
is like 19, it's very old.
Like
Very old.
definitely
And
1900s.
yes, there,
Likely 1900s, not
yeah,
1990.
yeah.
For those of you who may be listening who call it the 1900s and it was 1989, okay?
Yeah, the early end.
Yeah, yeah, like the 1901.
Well, let's see. The building across says 1910.
Yeah. So
So this
imagine
is, yeah, it's gotta
about the
be
same.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there, it was a doctor's office and
Yeah.
babies were born here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just got this vibe. We've
Yeah.
got,
And imagine it was a doctor's office, and
yeah,
here it's a holistic
it's a
healing
good
space.
yes.
Yeah, because we have Shade and myself, we have another holistic health coach next door. We have our friend Allie who does massage. We have Reiki here. I mean, like we do sound bathing here with our friend Leah. We have tattooing and
Yes.
piercings here, and like so like the whole energy of like renewal and like self-care and
Sauna.
expression. Oh
Yeah.
yes, and our infrared sauna.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
amazing facets to this building. But again, I like the building called to
It does.
Allie,
Yes.
when she came here.
She's been here for 6 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's been slowly trying to recruit people. Like
Yeah, for 6 years.
the right people for the right space.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
there's some that have come and gone, some that have stayed. Yeah, and it's just and it feels the shift. I feel
Mhm.
the shift is like after COVID, that was kind of like one of the shifts.
Oh yeah.
That was
Hands
like, and
down.
then now like it moved it the other way where people are kind of like, oh, well, you guys said a lot of this, but a lot of that happened.
Right, right, right. So like it did, I will say like as unfortunate as COVID was and as it was a
Yes.
scary time, it was, a very sad time. We did lose a lot of lives in that time frame. But like thinking about it now, there was so much healing that came out of.
Yes.
So post COVID, this new world opened up for like people's desire to want to go back to the basics,
Yes.
to go back to like
Yeah, and that's where it
our
is.
roots.
That's the
Yeah.
roots, the basics, the simple, the
Yeah.
at home, like
Yeah, let's grow our own food
yes.
again. And let's find
Let's
the
slow
natural
down.
remedies. Yeah. Yeah, well, because it made us realize how short life really is. Like our days are never guaranteed, and every single day that we wake up in the morning, it's this beautiful gift.
Gift.
It's a miracle that we're here. And like and I genuinely believe that every single person who is awake right now in this universe, there's a very specific reason why they're here.
Yes.
And some people can tap into that and they know why they're here and they like emit that energy. But there are other people who are lost who don't know. And like it's our job as people who are on this beautiful healing journey to like lift those people up and support them so that they can also become healers in some sort of capacity.
Oh yeah, yeah, we all have
The ability.
somebody, and it's so beautiful that we all like can work together, and it's not like, oh, Vanessa has her clients and she just does her things and I have mine and
Right.
whatever. Like so many of my clients have come from Allie. She's giving somebody a massage and they're like, man, I have really bad bloating. So she's just talking, she can get that. She gets that
Oh,
relief,
yeah.
they're just talking. And then she's like, well, I know these great people. Like, let's talk to them. Oh, okay. And then, oh, well, Vanessa, she's great at knowing about like what's good testing to test to see what's going on with your gut. Oh, why don't we sit in the sauna?
Yeah, right, right.
Let's
Shade with
reduce-
cooking.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want some cooking tips and where to go in the grocery store,
Yeah.
which is all stuff that we'll be giving to our podcast listeners. I will say that there's a lot of good things that are going to be coming.
So excited.
We're going to have some really phenomenal guests that are going to come and speak as well. We're just going to kind of like go through the the gamut of holistic healing and health and what that means, and making sure that our listeners have like the resources available to check into stuff and know that there's an alternate, reality that's out there right now.
And that somebody else cares and wants to help.
Yeah.
Like there are people that care. And I think a lot of people care, and we're just like on this autopilot of like, I'm just doing what my job is. They're just surviving too.
Yeah. And we don't want survivors. We want thrivers.
Yes.
Yeah. We want happiness. And the more people that are happy, like
it rubs off so easily.
Yeah, like absolutely.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
Like, okay, these are my people. Finally, I have the people that I was supposed to have in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we've only like known each other for 6 months. Yeah. And in the 6-month time frame, we discovered how intertwined our like lives truly were without knowing. Like we didn't know each other, but I'm so sure we held the same space in so many scenarios. But like, could you imagine had we met when I was a terrible human? Or
I was too.
Yeah, right? Could you imagine like we would have met under vastly different circumstances? Yes. And so like, I think in the last 6 months for me personally, like I've gone through a journey in the last year and a half of some significant inner work and some significant inner healing. And 6 months ago, I found CrossFit, and I genuinely, I mean, how wild that CrossFit is a thing that is going to like be the story that we tell one day. Like it brought us into like a different realm of our existence. I don't know. It's wild. But CrossFit literally, like, my entire life has changed in the course of 6 months. And it's genuinely because I finally have found my people.
Yeah.
I found a community.
Yeah. The community of like, we're all trying to better ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're like in our 30s.
Yeah.
Like, so again, the notion that you can't find a community later on in life, absolutely not.
My mom, like you said, she's going to be 69.
Yeah.
And the class I teach, they're that age.
Yeah.
I have the most, how would I say, students, there'd be students, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Students, clients, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Legends class. That's who I have the most people of. And these ladies, we do have some men. Everybody's the snowbirds. I start to lose them around this time because everybody goes to Florida.
Oh my gosh.
Guys.
Well, Wisconsin winters.
Yeah.
They're rough. They're real rough. They're really rough.
I know. Like, don't start complaining.
Yeah, no. Well, actually, we can, because then Wisconsin will be like, oh, you think it's bad right now?
Oh, yeah.
Let me show you.
Tomorrow, we're gonna snow.
I'm definitely gonna say that Wisconsin it definitely has feminine energy. The mood swings.
Yes.
Girlfriend. We got
so
you. We got you. Yeah, but okay. I think we've had a good session.
I think so. I feel like I could keep going, but we better not.
Yeah, right? I mean, we have to save some for more episodes. Well, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening, and we're so excited to keep bringing you more.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day. Thank you for holding space with us. This marks the end of another enchanting journey on the Wellness Witches Whimsy podcast. We hope today's episode has sprinkled a little magic on your day and empowered you with the insights to elevate your wellness journey, mind, body, and soul.
Remember, the path to well-being is both an ancient art and science, a blend of ancient wisdom and modern knowledge. So keep your wands ready and your potions brewing until we meet again. May your days be filled with health, happiness, and a touch of whimsy until our paths cross again in the realm of wellness and wonder.